Hey guys, welcome to live player ratings for Arsenal 2, Sevilla 1. Arsenal have just and I have to start the intro over again. I did it again. All right, guys, this is your live player ratings for Sevilla 1, Arsenal 2. Arsenal just beat Sevilla in the Champions League, and we needed that win. It was a must win today, and we did it. So I can leave today feeling like, okay, we play Sheffield at the weekend. We did the business. Doesn't really matter how it got done. It just needed to get done. Now, I'm not saying that there's still not huge questions around, I would say, the midfield. I do think we're not quite at a crisis, but we're definitely in a situation where we need to figure out something because it's not working. We still have players that are gravely out of form, one of them being our captain, Martin Ødegaard, who was hooked before the end of the game. But we had some fantastic performances, and we all know who those fantastic performances came from, and they're probably up for contention for your man of the match. So make sure you guys are voting on the poll that I already have on the stream. I was panicking towards the end of that game, but I told you guys before in the pre-match vibes. First of all, if you guys don't go to pre-match vibes, I don't know why you guys don't come, because an hour before these games, we start the watch along and we just kind of like sit there and vibe and we talk about the team news. So if you weren't there, you didn't hear it, but I'll tell you what I said. My prediction was 2-1. And I said that we would definitely concede and it would be a really nervy 10 minutes. Do I know my football? Or do I know my football? Okay. I told y'all we would win 2-1, but those last 10, 15 minutes were going to be awful. And they were terrible. Okay. I don't really care. Like, Champions League is so different than the Premier League. I expect us to be dominant and free flowing in 90% of the games in the Premier League. In the Champions League, this is uncharted territory for so many of our players. And so away from home, these performances against decent sides are going to be hard. I don't think that we can really look at these performances and scrutinize them to the levels of like what we would if we were playing against like Bournemouth. You know what I mean? Because Sevilla are not going to sit back. They're going to have a good game plan. I thought their game plan was spectacular. Actually, it was just get into the box, win the first ball, and win the second one. Capitalize on corners. And they did capitalize on a corner, which is something else that I told you guys before the game, was that I thought corners are going to be really important because they have big players in there and they heavily rely upon them. But I think for the most part, we did a pretty good job, not necessarily looking like our most fluid best, but there were some individual performances that definitely got us over the line. And that's what you need in the Champions League away from home. When we're playing at home, mind you, we just played 2 Champions League games away from home. So once we go back to the Emirates, I think things will be different. But away from home, child, you're just trying to get 3 points. You're just trying to leave with your dignity, okay? And we did. And so we move and we get to play Sheffield on the weekend and hopefully see some rotation because some players do need a rest. But I am very, very, very happy about these points because we needed them. I don't know what happened in the other games. You guys will let me know. But we definitely needed to get the 3 points and make sure we had 2 wins banked because I don't know if Lens won or not, but if Lens beat PSV, then they would be ahead of us, I think, in the table. You guys will let me know. So we want to come first in this table and we want to, we want to get out of the group unscathed, So Zahid is saying we're top of the group, and that's all that mattered. Lon's true. So again, it doesn't really, and can I just say that I genuinely do think that a lot of Arsenal fans, maybe because we haven't been in Champions League in a long time, or maybe just feeling like the Premier League has something to do with this, but literally what you are in the Premier League has no bearing on the Champions League. None whatsoever. Europe is a completely different game. And so us being good in the Premier League doesn't really matter, And so the idea that we can just go into games against Sevilla with like very rotated lineups or very rotated lineups against Lens was never going to happen and never should be something that happens. Like, Europe is so difficult. You see, even with like the strength of teams that Manchester City puts in or puts out there, that you have to, go out there with something strong. And no, we weren't at our strongest. We know Thomas Partey wasn't there, but we were able to get 3 points or, win the game. Even with a lot of questions surrounding like our midfield and the strength of that midfield and, the disjointed attack and things like that. So for me, that's all that really matters. Um, we're going to get into all of the player ratings, but I want to get into some of your guys' comments first because it's your show. Trini says, just Raya. I thought Raya actually had a good game. I think he had one mistake. We talked about it during the watch along where a lot of people were saying, oh, Raya's actually playing really well. And I said, the mistake that he made at the very beginning of the game will be all that people talk about. So it erases any of the saves that he made, any of the good claims that he made, anything, and so I expect that. I expect people to give him a really low rating and not really be honest about his performance because of the one mistake. Paul says Tomiyasu was man of the match. He was superb in that Zinni role today. He was all over the pitch. On the other hand, Raya. So I don't think Raya was as bad as people were saying that he was. He made a lot of really decent saves. And after that one mistake, he really didn't make that many other ones. So I don't know. I'm just going to be okay. MM says, again, unconvincing performance, but we move. T-Po says, I won't lie. Raya nearly made me cry. Been living off on the edge too much, but I actually think he's the better goalkeeper. And Ramsdale ball playing, not too sure. I don't know. We talked about it during the watch along, and I said I knew that people would come on here and say that he had this horrible game because of the one mistake that he made at the beginning, but he really was good throughout the rest of the game. So, but I'm willing to wait this out because I still feel like people are not giving him a fair shot because of Ramsdale. Ramsdale's not coming back into this team. So the sooner we support our new number one goalkeeper, the better. And maybe our eyes will clear up and we won't just, one mistake, because it's not like Ramsdale on his last day out didn't make any mistakes either. Like he played against Brentford and had a mistake in possession. But Raya does it and it's like, oh my God, get Ramsdale back in. I actually would love if Arteta would put Ramsdale back in so we can remember what life with Ramsdale was like. And then so people would just like clear up a little bit. But I'm okay with, I know that this is how it's going to be for a while. But I think once people accept that this is our new number one goalkeeper and he's probably not going to get dropped, then we'll start to just, get over it. Crispy says Tomiyasu man of the match. Chosen One says Jess, one more win and we're surely secure a spot in the knockouts. That's where I'm at. Off the Radar says unconvincing performance. This is UCL. Exactly. I still think Arsenal fans maybe forgot what it's like in the Champions League, but teams don't respect you in the Champions League. They don't sit back in the box and defend and let you attack them. They play their game. And Sevilla had a good game plan, just like Lens had a good game plan. So to go away from home to that type of environment and beat Sevilla, although it wasn't perfect, is all that freaking matters. Like, guys, the idea that we were just going to go into the Champions League and have no bumps in the road or any difficult performances, be serious. Here to There says Tommy, Martinelli, Rice, 3 Warriors. Yeah, the performances from Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, and Tomiyasu definitely stood out. Crispy says, get out of here about unconvincing. It's Sevilla away. They drew with Madrid during the week. I just feel like people have no, like, we're one of the best teams in the Premier League. The Premier League is the best league in the world. So that means that we're so much better than everybody and they can't. It's the Champions League. It's a completely different thing, baby. Zahid says Ødegaard was shit. He was really poor today. And this is the game for me where I said in the kind of like, in the back of my head, as somebody that really loves Ødegaard and backs him and thinks he's in a poor run of form, that if he can't click into gear today, which he was unable to do, he needs to sit out against Sheffield. He needs to, he needs a little bit of a rest, take him out of the firing line a little bit. Sometimes players need to get out of the team in order to clear their heads and get back into form. But he was really poor today. Like, I'm not about to sit here and tell you that he played well. I think, he looked very weak. He was getting absolutely bullied all like the entire game, very similarly to like Lens, so Ødegaard is somebody who's very, like, he's really struggling. And so against Sheffield, I would like to see somebody else play there. The issue that you have is that Ødegaard really understands the press. And when Kai came in, you can kind of see that he didn't know when to press. He was kind of getting dribbled right around. And that's why Ødegaard plays, is he understands when to go and when not to go and keep the shape and stay in your position off the ball. And so we're in a difficult position because if Ødegaard can't play, I don't think it's as simple as just drop him for anybody. I don't think it's that simple, you guys, because we don't play a 4-2-3-1. We play a 4-3-3, and that requires the number 8 on both sides to do some sort of defensive work other than just pressing the defenders. Like, we're in a pickle midfield wise. We're in a pickle midfield wise if Partey can't get his fitness shit together and Ødegaard maintains this level of form. We're in trouble. We were already in a little bit of a what's the balance? But I'm very disappointed with how recruitment has gone in midfield, and I just feel like we've created an unnecessary problem. And I think we're winning and playing decently despite our midfield, not because of it. And it's unfortunate, but it's not all negative, you guys. Like, we won the game and there were some really good performances and we'll get into them. But, this is another conversation for another day. I'm working to get some people on the show so we can kind of talk about it, like somebody that really understands tactics and can kind of unwind some of this, weirdness about like why the midfield is the way that it is and what haven't we done right. Ocampo says all the team today have impressed me with that performance. You got the prediction spot on, Jess, because I know what I'm talking about. Okay. But I'm also not delusional. First time back in the Champions League, we're going to struggle a little bit. Let's see. Tala says, I'm going to be real. Declan Rice is proving a point now. The technical ability in certain spaces and physicality, I really believe he will be a top player in a couple of years. Playing in the 8, he's not. I don't really think that that's his best position. Like, I think the 6 is, but to be doing a job at 8 because really, like, Thomas Partey is not fit and we didn't recruit properly, and to do it to the level that he's doing it just shows he's so worth the 100 million. Because if we didn't have him or a player like him, we'd be struggling. We need somebody that can step into that 8 role while we don't really have anybody that can do it. And I'm telling you, towards the end of that game, him and Tommy, some of the defensive intervention there was world class. So I'm very happy to see Declan Rice performing at that level. And kudos to them. Kudos to them. Ayanle says, I don't want to hear any Jesus slander as our attacking midfield is dead. Ødegaard, my God. I think Jesus did a lot of the midfielding. I think he did a lot of the attacking midfield work because Ødegaard was pretty much like nullified and dead in the game. And so Jesus could have had 2 assists. Martinelli missed the first one, but him going off also is a little bit of a worry because you don't want to lose Jesus so quickly after you got him back. Players are going to have to step up. We have Havertz now and they've ditched the left center mid shit. And so now I kind of think like, okay, if Jesus can't play, then Havertz has to play up there. I don't want to see Eddie. I thought his cameo was really poor. I almost died, y'all, when Eddie, what did he do? They passed the ball down the line to him and all he had to do was kick it past him and run. And he couldn't even beat that slow ass Sevilla player. And I just was like, you know what? I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore, I can't do it anymore. Manib says Tomiyasu was fantastic today. In my opinion, I would play Zinni in midfield as he has defending. His defending is crap. I think he can play 8 on the ball and he's crazy good. Arteta has to find a solution, period, boo. And we have a really good game to try something good in midfield. Take Ødegaard out, take him out of the firing line. You're going to have Rice. You need to figure out what 2 players are going to play on either side of him. As much as I like Jorginho, I think we have to find a different look that doesn't include him because he's good in certain games. He's really poor in others, or not the best option for others because he doesn't have legs. So I need to figure out somebody that I would like to see in the left 8 role that I feel like is being really ignored is Trossard. I thought his cameo was really good. He also got stuck in, he did a lot of pressing. He worked really hard. Bless his soul. His little face was like, when he was trying to win the ball back, it was so cute. And so, yeah, like I would try Trossard there. I just feel like, what do you have to lose? Right about now, we're looking rank, in midfield. That's all I'm saying. So yeah. Patrick says ESR and Vieira against Sheffield. D1 says if you prefer Havertz over Nketiah, you don't know football. Well, I don't know shit then because I would definitely start Havertz up top and not Nketiah. I didn't like his cameo whatsoever, and I think he's just been pretty poor, to be honest. Like, his cameos are not great. He comes on, runs around, fouls. He can't get past his man. He can't hold the ball up. He doesn't win duels. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't score goals. He hasn't scored a goal since Fulham, So there you go. So I don't know football. I'm fine with not knowing football if that means you have to like rate Eddie. Crispy says, give me Havertz over Nketiah for real. And also, Havertz is somebody that we have to make work. And so Eddie, we already know what his ceiling is. We know what he can give us, and we don't actually know what Havertz can give us at center forward. So why not try him there, you know? So yeah. Troy says 105 million well spent. Declan Rice is the real deal. I agree. So the game, honestly, I thought both halves we started really well. You know, I think that's the thing that really stood out to me is in the first half, I thought we started off well for like the first 15 minutes. I thought at the beginning of the second half we started off really well. It was like the middle part of both halves where we kind of lost our way. And I think, Martinelli scored that goal. That's a fantastic goal. It's on the counter. He doesn't put a foot wrong. But I still think that we struggled to create like pressure. Our chances were kind of like few and far between. There wasn't that many moments for us to like put them under real pressure, And so I'm glad that we were clinical when we needed to be. And then the second goal from Jesus is just individual brilliance. You get in the box and you hit it top bins. That's something that like we just need our players to be able to do and pull out of the bag. And so the beginning of the halves were good. The middle of the halves were not great, but defensively we were really good. And so for me, that stands for something. And Troy says we didn't control the game. You can't control the game without a good midfield. That's the truth, for me. Without a good midfield, you can't control the game. And so I think we've kind of felt like in Europe and in difficult games against like the bigger teams, we've lacked the ability to control the midfield. And that's because we don't have a great midfield right now. Our midfield doesn't have the balance yet. And like I said at the top of the show, I feel like we're winning despite our midfield, not because of it right now. And so that's why the individual brilliance of Saka and Jesus and Martinelli is so important, because right now we're not on it. John P says, I wish Rice just kept running instead of passing it to Saka. Sometimes you have to go full Maradona. I wanted him to go straight through. You guys remember that chance that Rice had where he just went straight through the middle? I was like, just kick it past them and run and go to goal, man. But he tried to pass it. It's fine. I get that. Like, that's not really his vibe. But Rice in these last two games has done a lot of heavy lifting to get us points. I think he's one of the biggest reasons why we were able to get something away at Chelsea, because I think, unpopular opinion, I think Arteta threw the game. I think when you put on Eddie and ESR, you're basically saying, and you take Jorginho and Jesus off, two players that started to get today, that, oh yeah, like I'm done because we're already 2-0 down. Then Rice drags us up, kicks the ball in the back of the net off of a mistake, and then he's going to put Havertz and Trossard on to get us back into the game. Like, Rice did so much against Chelsea and then did so much today to just get us over the line. I mean, somebody said during the watch along that he's hindering us. Like, he's a really good player, but he's hurting us. And from my perspective, I'm like, he's not hurting us. The club is hurting us. They spent 105 million pounds on a player that's exceptional quality and have not figured out a way to surround him with players that allow him to do his best job and for his best qualities to give them the platform that they need. It's the club's fault. If you think Rice is, his inability to pass like Partey, or whatever is hurting us, the club is hurting us because they recruited poorly. They told us that the Havertz and Rice, signings went together. Well, maybe they don't, because Havertz is on the bench. Rice is not doing anything to stop us, hurt us, nothing. That man is dragging us over the line while Ødegaard is in another world, and the left center mid situation is an absolute tragedy. That man, he deserves better. Like, they need to figure out something with midfield so he can just play the 6 like he's meant to play. But my God, playing in the 8 role, getting us over the line, I thought he did really well against Manchester City. That's 3 games in a row where Rice played very big role in getting us the points. He's spectacular. I really think that, like, I love Ødegaard. Don't get me wrong. Like, you guys know I love Ødegaard, and I know he's going to come good and come back into form. But he is going to be our captain sooner rather than later, Declan Rice. I just think he has everything, that you need in an Arsenal captain. That, Ødegaard has done really well over the last 2 seasons, but even maybe if you take the captaincy away from him, he can just focus on doing what he does best, which is create, score goals and things like that. But Rice seems to relish having the pressure on him and like also performing at a very high level on a consistent basis. And so I'm so happy about Declan freaking Rice. Okay. Let's see. Die Hard Gunner says we paid 105 mil for a backup to Partey. Rice cannot play the 8 and is holding us back. Rice was poor against City, poor against Chelsea, and poor again today. Is this trolling? Is this one of those accounts that just says something like really dumb and like expects us to believe it? Because nobody in their right mind that's been watching the last couple of games thinks Rice is terrible. Have a nice day. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. Vince says, I can count 3 games. Rice has won for us tonight is one of those games. I agree. Travis says, Rice was good, to be honest. Mark says, is Die Hard Gunner sober? I mean, it could only be drugs, it could only be drugs and hard ones. Like, come on, be serious. Shane says, I don't care about anyone's opinion. Declan Rice is an elite player, way underrated in Europe. This guy is immense. And I think a lot of our players need European football in order to really establish themselves as the top players that they are. I think one of those players is Gabriel Martinelli. I think he doesn't have the backing of the English media like Saka does, so he's not getting half the recognition that he deserves. But if he sparkles on the European stage, which I think a lot of us feel like he will, he's going to start getting the recognition that he deserves. And I also think Declan Rice is one of those. He has the backing of the English media, but to be considered one of the best midfielders in the world, you have to be able to perform in Europe. And he's going up against some big hitters, I think, I know Bellingham is not really playing midfield, but you have like Tchouaméni, you have Bellingham, you have some really top quality players that, in the next couple of years, if they can establish themselves in Europe, they could become like the best players in the world. Declan Rice is one of those, but you need to be playing in Europe in order to get those tags, and Declan Rice, that's all he hasn't had is the opportunity to perform in Europe. So far, so good. So good. So far, so good for Gabriel Martinelli as well. And if we can get Saka fit, he'll, I think Saka just needs to sit the fuck down. I'm just going to keep it 100. I can't really look at Saka and say, you know what, he played poor, so I'm mad at him. The guy's not fit. The guy's not fit. You come back off of like you've been playing with the injury for months now, and you take one game off against Manchester City, you have 1 week off, and then you're straight back into the 11. Straight back into the 11. I need the man to sit down, and quite frankly, he needs to sit down against Sheffield. If we can't beat Sheffield at home without Saka, we have big problems, okay? So sit Saka, sit Ødegaard, let some other guys step in, let Trossard play, let's go. Andrew says, Rice has already won a trophy in Europe, Jess. I get that, but I don't want to diminish what West Ham have done because I do think it's impressive what they did last season. But when I say perform in Europe, I don't mean the European Conference League. I mean the Champions League. I think we all know that the other 2 competitions in Europe don't really hold the same level of esteem as the Champions League. So I'm not saying that like what he didn't mean anything or what West Ham didn't mean anything. It does to them, and it does. Like winning trophies means everything. But when I say performing in Europe, I mean the Champions League. It's the highest level of, competition that you can play in. So that's what I mean. Kasim says Ødegaard looks lost when he's not able to win balls during pressing and not able to do much with the ball. Ed says, agreed, Arteta's management of players' fitness is irresponsible and short-sighted. He has to sit him down. Dale says, I'm curious why Arsenal had so much control early in the season. Essentially, same midfield players except for Havertz started most of those games at left 8. It's because we played against Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Fulham, and there's somebody else in there that we played, and Everton. So we had control because we're much better than those sides. I think, and teams in the Premier League are just going to sit back and allow you to do your due. They're just going to. We're so much better than them that they just decided, you know what, I'm not going to even try to play. And so it gave us the control of the game naturally. And then they asked us to break them down. Teams in Europe aren't really giving us that. PSV, they got slapped by us, but they tried to play their game and they came out. Sevilla, they didn't sit back. They played their game. They didn't respect us. Neither did Lens. And so I think when we got to the more difficult games against Spurs, against Chelsea, and against Man City, against Lens, and against Sevilla, we've seen that with more difficult competition, we're not getting that natural dominance because teams are just sitting back. So the positive of teams sitting back on us is because we don't have to win the duels. We don't really have to go in there and like struggle to win the game because teams are just sitting back in their box. Came out and played their game against us. We've struggled to win the midfield battle, and I think that's where, you know, the parts of our midfield that aren't working have started to rear their ugly heads. So let's go ahead and get stuck in to the player ratings. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I'm going to share my screen. I think, oh no, it's not that one. Sorry, you guys, I'm making mistakes. Hold on. I'm so tired. But I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, here we go. Now let's do this. Oh, let's do this one. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. What do you guys think Raya's rating is? I want to know what you guys have to say, and like give me a reason why. I want to know. I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as some people are saying. And like, in fact, when we did the watch along, a lot of people said he was playing really well after the one mistake that he made early. But again, when you make those types of mistakes, it does color, you know, the performance. And so, you know, whatever. But he made a couple of decent saves. You know, he passed well out of the back once he kind of like got his life together in the first couple of minutes. And yeah, the punch wasn't the best, but he also made a really good save that hit across the crossbar, because that's going in the back of the net. The shot that, I forget the guy with the braids, whatever his name is, that's going in the back of the net. So if we're gonna ding him for all of his mistakes, you also have to give him credit for the things that he did do well. But I fully understand that those things are going to go under the radar because the one mistake that he made at the beginning, and you know, maybe the punch, you know. So you guys let me know. Let's see. So again, if you guys are going to ding him for the passes that he didn't make, are you guys going to give him credit for the ones that he did? And the saves that he made, are you going to give him credit for the saves that he made? Or are you just going to talk about the one mistake off of the punch that actually didn't even go in the back of the net? So yeah. When you say poor distribution and bad positioning, what do you mean? Because if he has poor distribution, we would expect for, you know, him to have not connected any passes. What? And bad positioning, you know, did he get chipped? What was the bad positioning? Explain. Nostradamus says solid 6. I'm kind of there. Nari says 4. Joshua says 5. James says doesn't have the presence at goal that Ramsdale offers. What presence does Ramsdale have, by the way? You know, because Ramsdale's somebody that, you know, often the ball would go in and he wouldn't claim it and it would just bumble around in the box and they would kick it in the back of the net. So what kind of presence are we talking about? Are we talking about claiming the ball and, you know, organizing your back line and coming out and punching the ball and claiming it? Is that the type of presence? Are we talking about somebody that gets in the crowd's face and, like, you know, is rambunctious and has the energy? You know, because there's vibes and then there's actual like presence in the box that means you win most of the duels in the box and you claim the ball. Ramsdale's not somebody that ever claims the ball. He really struggled to claim the ball. So what does presence mean to you? For me, presence means you're coming out, you're winning the ball, you're punching, you're claiming it, you know, not I'm back there like geeing it up the fans and like riling them up. And, you know, there's different types of presences, you know. Al Poedo says 5. Aman says Raya solid 7. Astro Dooley says 6. Shane says 7, decent. Abby says 5. Zahid says 6. Trini says 5. Jordan Hill says 6. He made some good saves at the end of the game, steadied the ship when team was cornered. Let's see. Mark Neighbor says, I'll be amazed if anyone gives a rating to a keeper on his passing. I just do not believe it. Zahid says, Ramsdale chats shit a lot. That's his presence. When people are saying presence, I'm trying to figure out what this is. I mean, does somebody with presence, you know, against Manchester United, second goal, you know, at the Emirates, the ball, him and Tommy just bump up against each other and Lisandro Martinez heads it to the back of the net. Is that presence? You know, like, what is presence? Oh, do we just like Ramsdale because he talks a lot and he's energetic and he G's up the crowd and he, like, what is presence? Because presence for me is a keeper that claims the ball in the box and make sure that we don't have goal mouth scrambles and the ball's just not dropping around like back there. Sorry, like, I'm trying to understand what presence means. Grumpy Adult Gamer says, credit, I thought he was outstanding. People that actually watched the game, I think, thought he had a decent game. I don't think it was amazing. I don't think he was like a 9 out of 10 or anything like that, but I definitely don't think he was anywhere near as bad as people are making out to seem. He made the one mistake in possession early, and it colored their whole vision on the game, and they couldn't get past it. Ameng says 6, he could do better on the first goal. First goal to me is not his fault. Gabriel Jesus is on the wrong side. Kingsley says Raya 7. So yeah, we have quite a bit of, I think anywhere between 6 and 7 is probably about where he was. Yo-Yo says Raya was fine, but he needs to shake off his imposter syndrome. I do think he needs to calm down. I think he is struggling a little bit to like rise to like I'm no longer at Brentford. I'm now at Arsenal. I'm playing all these Champions League games. I'm playing against Manchester City, Chelsea, Spurs, all this kind of stuff. And these games mean something. But I also think once all the noise and the bullshit around this whole number one goalkeeper thing goes away and he can just do his job and everybody just starts backing him, then that'll end as well. Because quite frankly, he hasn't had anywhere like near the level of patience or support from the Arsenal fan base that he deserves. It's not his fault that Ramsdale lost his spot. If anybody you should be, upset with, it should be, Arteta. But quite frankly, if somebody like this is somebody that's important to our team, this is our number one goalkeeper, the player that's playing in the Champions League and the Premier League for us at the very least. And so we need him to do well. So I would just end the bullshit now and like when he plays against Sheffield, if he does play against Sheffield, but when he does, support him the way that you guys have been supporting Havertz, support him the way that you guys supported Saliba when he headed in the back of his net, because this guy is now really important to our team. So just get over it. Like he didn't have a bad game. I'm seeing Ramsdale do some fucking mad shit. So, like the idea that like Raya's just howler after howler and we haven't seen like people are saying presence. Y'all, he hasn't been perfect. I'll give you guys that. I'll say he hasn't been perfect, but it's time to like let it go. Osman says, I think Ramsdale would struggle like Raya. Our team is still adjusting to Champions League. People are not taking into consideration is Ramsdale may not be in the same circumstances during games as Raya because he decided not to play out from the back the way that Raya is. Raya is being asked to be put in very risky scenarios at the back, passing out from the back. These small little passes at these crazy angles while teams are pressing him. He's doing that and he's making mistakes doing it. Fair enough. But Ramsdale's not making mistakes doing that stuff because he's decided that he doesn't want to. He said it from his own mouth that he didn't feel comfortable playing that way. So they had to compromise. So yeah, you may have not seen Ramsdale make as many of those mistakes because he's deciding not to do them. But I mean, if you put him in those same scenarios, do you actually think after 2 years of seeing Ramsdale play for Arsenal that he wouldn't make a mistake or two? This is somebody who literally kicked it straight to a Southampton player and it went right in the back of the net. So, I just keeping everything in perspective because, it is what it is. I love Ramsdale. I think he's a really good goalkeeper, but I'm not about to sit here and act like this man has presence because he G's up the crowd, and he's good when his back is against the wall, but our back really wasn't against the wall today, the way that it was against Liverpool away from home. There's certain games where, yeah, we have been getting battered, but not really, so yeah, I don't know. Travi says, but Raya has done it almost every single game. Ramsdale would have done it every single game if he actually tried to pass out from the back. When Ramsdale passed out of the back, tell me you didn't feel uncomfortable because I remember sitting there and people saying, oh my God, Ramsdale looks so shaky on the ball. They just forgotten. Like, I think he was fine today, to be honest. Eugene says he will get better, give him a 6. So yeah. Well, let's see. Ocampo says Ramsdale was howler machine, not consistent. The one thing about I've seen over the last couple of days a couple of comps of Ramsdale. He has quite a few fail comps going around on Twitter. I don't retweet them because I think that that's toxic, but I would implore you to go back and watch those. So because this is somebody that had many, many howlers, I don't know. But judging Raya right now, I'm gonna give him a 6.5. I don't think he was amazing, but I also don't think he was terrible. And you know, if you're gonna ding him for all the mistakes that he made, you have to actually acknowledge that he made some good saves and stuff like that. So not perfect, but by no means terrible, like people are saying. Um, I just hope that like at some stage people will just like get over it so that he can settle because he's our number one goalkeeper now. So yeah. Martin N says, can we just agree that both Ramsdale and Raya look shaky in front of goal? I would say when you're passing out from the back, and do you guys watch other Premier League teams play? I don't know if you guys do or not, but this past weekend, almost every single goalkeeper that was asked to play out from the back while being pressed made mistakes in possession. Sanchez, Vicario, the goalkeeper for Spurs. It's not that fucking uncommon. If we just relax, like it'll calm down. But I'm okay. Like I'm okay with this because at some stage he'll settle and it'll be fine, you know. But as long as we keep keeping up a fuss and stuff like that, it's just gonna rage on. And I definitely don't think people are watching with clear vision. But I would actually love for Arteta to maybe play Ramsdale for a couple of games and make him pass out from the back the way that Raya is and see if he's so much better, because the only reason why he doesn't make mistakes playing out from the back is because he chooses not to and he kicks it long. And when he was kicking it long, everybody was bitching because it was just going out of bounds. If you look at their long pass completion, Ramsdale has poor long pass completion. Why is that? Because he was just kicking out of bounds. Like, I'm done. But this will all even itself out. Like, at some stage, people will get over it and they'll realize that Raya is our number one now. And they'll forget about it. You didn't play. I thought I had a shaky game, Ben. You know, if I'm honest, I thought he got beat a couple of times. I don't know. What do you guys think about Ben White? I feel like I always think he looks better on rewatch, but then like during the game, I thought he was a little shaky. What do you guys think? Because I'm not sure. I'll follow your guys' lead on Ben. I'll follow your lead on this one. John P says solid. Charlie says he can't pass from the back because 5 isn't in the DM to receive the ball in the half turn. Martin N says, really? I think Ben looks solid. I have a hard time, like, when Ben is playing, like, sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just, like, focused on the wrong things. On rewatch, he always looks amazing, you know? So that's why I want to follow your guys' lead on this, because I don't feel like I always get, like, you know, there's some players that you watch and then you rewatch them and you're like, oh, yeah, they were actually a lot better. That's how I feel about Ben. Zahid says 7.5. I think he was better in the first half, but didn't put a foot wrong aside from getting done by Enesiri chance. Mamang says 7. He was fine. Andrew says White average game 5. Hate his throw-ins. Charlie says 7. Mariano didn't sniff on the right-hand side. Football 14 says 5. You what says 6. Solid but serviceable. Ben says 5. So I think it's maybe I could give him a 6.5. Would that be good? You know, I feel like that's good. 6.5. You guys are saying 6, 7. So yeah. Nostradamus says 24 passes and lost possession 7 times, below average, but an average 5 out of 10. I don't think he was like amazing, but he also wasn't bad. Mark says Ben White 6, not great. Did not get forward again like he usually does. Held his own against a winger, solid as always. A standard 6, did what he had to do. Zahid says, yeah, that works. Crispy says 6. So yeah, I would say 6.5. You know, Ben is a difficult one to read sometimes for me personally. Ocampo says, did you see that shameless Lamella dive? Hell yeah. He was so pathetic. I was yelling and screaming. He was so bad. So yeah, let's keep it moving. We have some important ones to get to. Saliba, don't really think he put a foot wrong. You know, I think what I've been very impressed by from Saliba and Gabriel is the consistency in their performances. Since Gabriel has come back into the team, I think the two of them have been pretty much not really our best players all the time, but solid 7s, 8s, you know, every single game. And I think both of them for me will get a 7.5. Like, I don't think they did anything wrong. I don't think there's anything like that they had. Like, I don't think that I don't know. Maybe when I rewatch, I'll notice more things, but I just think they're becoming somewhat like how Saka was last season, where they're just so consistent that you just say like, oh yeah, 8, 7, 8, you know, every single game. So as a pair, I just think they're so good, you know. And ever since Gabriel came back into the team, they've just been like no problems, like just very solid. Like I don't know how to explain it. So 7.5 for me for Saliba and Gabriel. I think they didn't really have that much to do the entire game. Like I thought the game was heavily contested for the majority of the game. You know, a lot of duels, a lot of the ball out, a lot of guys on the ground. And then there was like the moment at the beginning of like once we gave up the goal, then they started getting on top of us and they had to defend a little bit more. But yeah, man, I really, really like them two as a pair. I really don't think that you can separate them at this stage. And so 7.5 for me for both of them. I think they did their job. And as a pair, they're becoming so consistent that you just kind of almost like forget about it, you know? Aris says they weren't tested enough to give higher than a 7. To be honest, Osman says 8 for Saliba and Gabriel. They were very solid and they look more and more like a beautiful partnership. Gabriel speaking French helps. And the one thing that I will say about the way that we're playing, and like somebody brought this up, and I thought it was a really, really good point, is that one of the things that we've kind of decided to do is have our defense do a lot of the build up and stuff like that. And I rate that. I like that. But our midfield needs to be more of the players that are doing the dictating. And I don't necessarily want to see our defenders playmaking all the time. I'm finding that, you know, especially like Ben with the long ball, Saliba trying to find clip balls and behind to Saka. I'm just finding that to be a little bit too direct and a little bit like, okay, if we're sitting at the halfway line, they can only be like at the edge of their box. We're never going to find that pass. So just as like a side note that's at the back of my mind is the midfield needs to start dictating play and creating chances. And we don't need to be relying upon defenders being our playmakers. And I think right now they're playing too big of a role in what we're trying to do. And it needs to start becoming the midfield. But that being said, I think, you know, they played really well. Ivy says Saliba and Gabriel 7.5. Mark says we also forget how much these two cost as a pair. What a bargain for both super scouting. And I think this is also why you should look outside of the league. I think, especially for defenders and midfielders, defensive midfielders, box to box, League One is a really good place to look for these types of players. I mean, both Gabriel and Saliba came from the French league, and look at what we've gotten for a bargain. I think we should do it more. So yeah, Diehard Gunner says, what do you guys think of the problem with midfield while all the forwards are struggling? We've spoken about it quite a bit, but I'm sure people in the comments will give you their commentary. Mark says, I do not think that there's a better partnership at the back in the league right now. And we forget how young they are. I agree. I mean, people are saying that it's Romero and Van de Ven, but they've only been doing it for 10 games, where Saliba and Gabriel have been doing it for more than a season. So, yeah, for me, they're the best center back pairing. Blaze says Gabriel and Saliba deserve an 8. They are more consistent players this season, like Ben White. People need to understand defended with a high line is not easy. Yeah. Nostradamus says 36 out of 37 passes made, only losing possession once, and only with 1 out of 4 tackles made. Stats don't always get it right, but Magalhaes was better than Saliba. Yeah, there's games where I think that like Ocampo says maybe Diaz and Stones. Yeah, I think the thing about Manchester City is they switch their defenders so much that it's hard to say like they have a pair because they switch so much. But yeah, I would say the default Manchester City pair at the back is probably just as good as them, if maybe not better. But Gabriel and Saliba, it's like Saliba will have a little bit of a better game, but then Gabriel, you know, is right there, or vice versa. It's hard for me to look at them separately because I think as a pair they just make each other better. But there are some games where Gabriel is better than Saliba. Maybe we should recognize those games because last season there was a lot of Saliba's carrying Gabriel. I don't remember those games. I remember people saying it. And so maybe we need to spend some time, you know, on Gabriel just by himself, not necessarily like, oh, he's better than Saliba, he's carrying Saliba, but just recognizing how good he is, because there was a time where people think he was shit, and he was never crap. He was a young player getting the kinks out of his game. You know, at 22, 23, you're going to make mistakes. And so instead of saying, oh yeah, well, he's shit and he's a bozo, we should have just said he's a young player developing, but we didn't do that. So yeah, Gabriel is great. Let's see. Martin says Gabriel 6.5, or not Martin. I'm sorry. Andrew, my bad. I was looking, I thought I saw Martin and then I read your comment. I apologize. Diehard Gunner says Gabrielle is a 7.5. So you were watching the game. Gigantesco says 5.5 or 7.5 for our CB. So yeah, that's great. Let's move forward a little bit more. Tommy, what was that performance? What was that performance? They tried to sell you. They tried to sell you in the summer. I remember doing a sell, keep, blah, blah, blah. People had you in the sell column, baby, but not me, because I knew you'd come good. If you could just be fit, you were going to be that guy. Because Tommy used to be a starter, y'all. I don't think people remember that. Before Saliba came back into the team, Tomiyasu was a starter, but he just could not maintain his fitness. He's went up a level. He's better than he was when he first came. He's better. That player, that is a top quality performance going forward and defending. How you guys remember when we didn't have defenders? When we didn't have players that could actually defend? Now we have Tommy. Not only is he up there trying to play striker and trying to be our playmaker, but my guy is back there defending for his life. And those last 20 minutes of the game, him and Rice were bossing it. They were bossing it. They were absolutely bossing it. Tommy freaking Yasu. You are so good. If you just stay fit, you're going to be, especially once Timber went down, Tomiyasu became like, we need to wrap him in cotton wool, because if we don't have Tommy, we don't have anything. We don't, and we need versatile defenders that we can rely upon on the ball, but it can actually defend, because you can't play Zinni every game, and I don't think that's Zinni's fault. It's not to go in on Zinni. I love Zinni, but there's just games that are Tomiyasu games. And today was a Tomiyasu game. It just was, he could sit down against Sheffield. I don't think he should. It's a weird one, because I'm like, against Sheffield, if they sit back, you might want Zinni. But, if Tommy keeps his spot, he keeps his spot. I don't care. But in games like this, I need him to play. And this was a good, I think, indication from Arteta that, this is what you need to be doing. I don't know why it's taken him so long. Maybe he was making sure that Tomiyasu was fully fit or something. But the guy was outstanding, y'all. He was very good. When we talk about away performances in Europe, that's what you need. You don't need all the shine. I don't care. I don't care about flicks and tricks. I just want to see guys get the job done. That was such a professional performance from Tomiyasu. And from minute one, he was on it. We said it I was like, is that Tommy? Firing the ball into people's feet, in between the lines, getting into the box, winning his headers, winning the duels. He was so good. I can't wait to look at the comp. I know it's bomb. I know it's bomb. Tomiyasu, I'm giving you a 9. I'm giving you a 9. And you're my man of the match. This is my man of the match. Rice is a close second. Very close second. But watching Tommy play like this is, we got him for 18 million or something. Y'all, get in my comments. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Get in my comments. Okay. Ocampo says Tomiyasu is a 9 out of 10 for me. Martin N says Tommy is man of the match. He is for me as well. M&D Agency says any deserve. It says 9. We know top tier defender, but today he found pockets. Oh my God. Nostradamus says Tommy stats 83.9% pass ratio, 75% tackles ratio, 5 interceptions. Tommy Basu. Yeah, those are great stats. I mean, the stats match the eye test, which is great. Ionle says a fit Tommy is damn near world class. He slipped through in the midfield, plus still defending. Man of the match, him and Jesus, him and Timber would cook Europe in big games. And yeah, I mean, just imagine if we had the opportunity to have, Ben White and Timber and Tomiyasu as our European defenders, we would be cooking. There are games for Zinchenko, don't get me wrong, but there are games where we could have played Timber plus Tommy, or Tommy plus Ben, or Ben plus Timber, but Tomiyasu, we need to keep him fit. He needs to he needs cotton wool for real, because this guy is so important. Charlie says Timber and Tomiyasu got to play rock paper scissors for left back slot, because wow, man, 2 colossal left backs, 8.5 out of 10 for me for Tommy Gunn. He is the truth. Well, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't necessarily feel like the plan was for Timber to play left back. I think it was pretty well documented that he was coming in to play right back. So essentially, I think what you have is the side with, on the right hand side, you have a more midfield like, right back in Timber, and you have a more center back one in Ben. And then on the left hand side, you have Zinchenko as your more midfield left back, and you have Tommy as your more center back one. So that balances out and makes more sense to me. Um, that's what makes more sense to me, if I'm honest with you. I don't necessarily feel like it was the plan to play Timber on the left. But also maybe it could have been, and maybe they figured Tommy would be better on the right, but he's proven to be much better on the left, which is so weird because he's a good right-sided center back, a good left-sided center back, and a good left back. But boy, when he gets on the right back, whoo, that's like a different player, child, not in a good way. But yeah, I think Tomiyasu, a fit Tomiyasu is like a world-class defender, and he found, the attacking side of the game as well. And so I'm ready to see like this kind of take shape, because he's so important. Anton Dunn said he played so well, he's about to be dropped next game. Arteta can't manage these situations properly. It depends, I feel like it depends. Do you feel like he's the right fit for against Sheffield? Or do you feel like we need to go back to, like, if Sheffield sit in at the Emirates, I don't know if Tommy is the better fit. I feel like Zinchenko might be the natural better fit, but does Tommy deserve to be dropped? But Tomiyasu is going to start against Newcastle, which is just the next weekend. He should start against Newcastle away from home. So, this is where Arteta needs to get it right. I don't necessarily feel like it's dropping Tomiyasu if you play Zinchenko in a game that suits him better. But then we turn around and go to Newcastle. I want to see Tomiyasu back in the team. So some decisions to be made. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Zinni knowing the opposition that we're playing, but I need Tomiyasu in that team against Newcastle. For real. Like, we cannot play with Zinchenko in that position, period, boo. It can't happen. It can't. Let's see. We're not at Rice yet, but y'all are giving to Rice. Mark says maybe someone had a word in his ear. This position is up for grabs, and he's fighting more than ever. Lovely to see a player fighting and not accepting the bench. Lay, you did not jinx us this time, my friend. You said you went to 4 away European games for Arsenal, and this is the first time. This will be the first time that they won while you were there, huh? So congratulations. I'm so happy that you got a chance to go. And yeah, I'm happy that you did not jinx us, my friend. Thank you. Ocampo says that was a big call to drop Zinchenko, who people think is his favorite. Yeah. I think Arteta got that we needed to win that game. And you cannot go into an away European match with Zinchenko at left back, so Arteta's waking up, because he needed to. Manib says this should not be a surprise. I think Tommy plays better as an inverted left back or left back than his preferred right back. I remember him pocketing Salah last season or left back. Well, I'm just saying, Manib, like, remember Tomiyasu remember the season before last, Tomiyasu, when he came into the team, he was playing right back because Ben White was playing center back. So when we first brought him in, he was playing right back. That's what's weird to me, is that he was starting as our starting right back. He kept getting injuries. Then he came back into the team. Ben White is now the right back, and Saliba's the right-sided center back. And when we tried him on the left, he looked good, and he's played well. So I think that's what's surprising. Off the radar says, turns out Lay didn't go and we won. I want to know the update on that. Did you go or no? Salvatore says he better wake up fast before Ødegaard ends our season before it starts. Total overreaction. Players go through bad runs of form. Like, Ødegaard is not going to stop us from winning. Like, calm down. Like, allow players to come back into form. We don't have to kill them every single time they have a poor run of form. We're the only fan base in the world that cannot recognize when a player just needs some time off or needs, a moment to get their life back together. We just absolutely have to run them into the ground and kill them dead. Mark says, what a great player to have who is so versatile across the whole back line. Hard to find a player that does so well in all areas, no weaknesses. Vince says, when the chips are down, Arteta doesn't have a favorite. Well, back against the wall, he's like, I'm playing Tommy, okay? So let's keep it moving because we're going to be here forever if we don't. You didn't play. Had a little cameo. I don't know what you guys think about it because I was so like nervous that I don't really remember anything that he did, but I'm glad that Kiwior at least exists. I think this is a player that's totally underutilized and not getting anywhere near enough minutes, but Tomiyasu is preferred and also Zinchenko, so he's in a weird position now. And we kind of had to have a build up on that side. And Kiwior is not really getting a look in. And the way that Tommy's playing right now, I don't think he's coming in at left back. And, we have such a good center back pairing in Gabriel and Saliba that Kiwior is just kind of on the outskirts of the team, which happens. But equally, I think there's a player there. So I'm just going to give him a 6. I'm giving him a 6 mostly based on the fact that I don't remember anything that he did, but I don't think he killed us. I don't think he did anything to kill us. You know what I mean? So yeah. Let's see. Nostradamus says Kiwi a solid 5. Andrew says Kiwior 5. Martin says, did Kiwi even touch the ball? I remember him had like a header. I remember that. Charlie says, slot him into the 6, please. I swear there's a DM in there. Yeah, I would love to see more from him, but right now there's nobody to play on the right-hand side, but there's like 3 players to play on the left, which I don't know if we planned it that way, Chow, but it's not looking good for Kiwi in terms of getting playing time. This is gonna be an interesting one. I want to know what you guys think about this. I don't know. Somebody give me the stats. How did Jorginho look statistically? Because my eye test told me that he was pretty much nullified, and the midfield creation and progression was mostly coming from Declan Rice on the left-hand side. Our right-hand side was completely dead. Rice was progressing the ball on that side, but Jorginho plus Ødegaard couldn't get anything going on the right at all. It was like Jesus and Rice and Tommy and Martinelli was like so good. It was so good. Those guys. But the other side of like Jorginho, Saka, and Ødegaard, there was just like nothing there. But I don't think Jorginho, like, I can't remember Jorginho doing anything like really bad, if that makes sense. I just don't feel like anything flowed forward. So it was just another game of him in there where he didn't really get on the ball and do the things that we know that he's really good at, which is playing the ball between the lines. And it was weird, like he wasn't bad, but you just don't want him in there. I think that's what it is like he wasn't bad, but you just want somebody else in there all the time. I think that's just what it is. Nostradamus says Jorginho 50 out of 54 passes. So if anything, Jorginho is going to be able to keep possession. Martin N says 6.5. Shane says 6. Off the radar says Georgie was good, controlled the tempo, solid 6. Ocampo says 7 out of 10 for Jorginho. He was effective and calm. Let's see. Diehard Gunner says he was overrun again. The thing about him, but here's my thing is like, I said this the other day when we played against Chelsea. We bought a player that we knew everybody and their mom knew who they were because we've seen them play in the Premier League for many, many years, And so the idea that he was never going to get run over in midfield was always going to happen, especially if you're going to put him on an island by himself and have Declan Rice so high up and him on this island by himself. So I don't know if I feel like, oh my God, Jorginho, he got overran. He should have done this. He should have done that. A player with no legs can only do so much. And this goes back to the player that everybody wants in there. Jorginho's not being chosen over Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is not available to play. So it's hard for me to be really harsh on Jorginho because even though I'd rather somebody else in that position, there's nobody else to put there. So ultimately it becomes the manager on recruitment and on the player that cannot maintain his fitness. So we have to revert to Jorginho. So he got overran, but like, of course he got overran. That's how he is. Like Jorginho is just not the type of player. Like we know who he is. So when you buy players and you know who they are, you have to play them in ways that suit them. And he's always going to get run over by a midfield full of runners. So either Thomas Partey needs to get fit or we need to go into the market and buy somebody who's not going to get ran over. But Jorginho can only do so much within his power, Chris Daddy says you will laugh when you see what I said about Jorginho in the group chat. Then I can't wait. John P says kept passing, but his passing was never really progressive. So maybe it was like just sideways and backwards. Chris says doesn't add anything to the team. Sorry, 5 out of 10. Yeah, it's weird because I don't know. But see, like, because people are telling me, like, I'm so sorry, Jorginho is only good on the ball, off the ball. He's horrific. I don't, but that's not his fault. I think we need to start, like, when we analyze players, we need to think about what type of player they are. And, like, it's not Jorginho's fault that he doesn't have legs. We bought a player who Arteta said that he's always wanted. So he knows more than anybody that this player can't run. So saying he's horrific off the ball and, blah, 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 like, okay, but we knew that. So why do we buy him? So either it's a recruitment problem or the fact that Thomas Partey can't stay fit or the fact that Arteta can't figure out a way to get a more sturdy option next to him so that he doesn't get exposed. None of those are really on Jorginho, and all he can do is what he can do best. If Jorginho is misplacing passes, like what Jorginho does well, that's within his power, is passing, keeping possession and controlling tempo. If he's not doing that and he's giving the ball away and not controlling the tempo, then I'll kill him. But I can't kill a player who we bought. We knew he didn't have legs. Arteta said he's wanted him for years. And then he's getting overrun. And we're like, well, he got overrun, so I'm going to give him a 4. You can give him a 5 all you want, but this is not on Jorginho at this stage. We bought a player with no legs, so your damn Skippy's going to get overrun. Do you really expect Jorginho to run back and catch someone? I'm not trying to be mean to you, Charlie, or anything like that, but I'm just a little bit over this whole, like, oh my gosh, like, Jorginho is just so slow and he's so bad off the ball. Well, duh, like that's the type of player he is. Like he can't change that. So we either needed to buy somebody who would not get overrun or we need to set him up in a way where he's not going to get exposed. It's no longer on him for me. We shouldn't have purchased him if we didn't know how to use him. Mark says Jorginho 5.5. Did he do anything poor? He did what he had to do. He kept it moving, nothing special, but he controlled tempo. This is just a position we need to upgrade upon. I think that's just where we're at with this. Jorginho, his contract is going to run out at the end of the season, but him and Thomas Partey, we need to condense that position and buy I think a young DM that's going to, learn under Rice, and then a left center mid that can just do what a left center mid is supposed to do. We recruited poorly and it's just not on Jorginho. We knew what he was when we bought him. So you need to figure out a way not to expose him. That's just where I'm at. It is what it is. Amon says Jorginho 5. So I'm going to give him a 5.5 because I don't think, like you guys said, it's like he did what he could do, which is control tempo and pass balls. Like he wasn't, but his performance wasn't anything special. Like, I don't know, maybe a 5.5 was too low. I don't know. Like Jorginho is just whatever, he's exactly what I expect him to be. And I'll always kind of want somebody else in that position, not because he's not doing as good as he can, but because he just doesn't have the qualities, So yeah. Blaze says, don't mind of our fan base. We always complain and wait to hating players for mistakes. I just think we need to look more at who brought this player in, rather than, oh my God, Jorginho is exactly what we bought. Oh my God, Zinchenko is exactly what we bought. This guy is, y'all, I'm going to let you guys do it. I'm going to let y'all do it. There's 300 of you guys in here. I'm going to let y'all do it. Do it. Get in these comments and tell me about my boy. Get in the comments and tell me about my boy. Go in. I better see some of the best comments I've ever seen because this guy was balling out today. Okay? Man was balling out. He might be your man of the match. Tommy was my man of the match, but this guy was doing it. He was doing it. He was just, you guys, we bought a superstar. If we got everything else wrong in the summer window, except for Timber, but we got this right. We got this right. Performing at a 9, 8, 9 every single game, dragging us over the line. We did it. We did it. We got this one right. Yep. Sitting up, waiting for Ornstein to put it out there that we put in the £100 million bid. The stress was definitely worth it. It was worth it because this guy is worth the price of admission. He is so good. He is so freaking good. Okay. What else can you really say about him? I mean, 3 games in a row, I think he's dragged us over the line. I think, Martinelli obviously scored the goal against Manchester City, but, we don't compete in that game without him. He was amazing against Man City. That's a big game that we had to win. He makes sure that we do not lose to Chelsea. After I think Arteta threw the game, I'll be honest with you guys. He drags us up, gets us a draw, never gives up. And then in this game again, in a position that doesn't really suit him, he really just kind of sparkled, didn't he? He definitely gets a 9 for me. I mean, I'm just more and more impressed by him every single day, and I'm so happy that, yeah, I think he was really, really good. Die Hard Gunner says he literally did nothing against Man City. So we didn't clear the ball off the line. He didn't do anything. You were watching with a blindfold, my friend. Charlie says, man is the new Patrick. Just give him the armband. Stop this delaying of the inevitable. He is the leader of the ship. He is the legs between. He has the legs between the defense and attack. The revolution is complete. 9.5. I don't think you can take the armband away from Ødegaard in the state that he's in right now, because we need Ødegaard. As much as people hate Ødegaard and think he's the worst and all this kind of stuff, we need him, and we need him to be good. So I think you have to be careful with things like this. After this season, though, I do think it's a conversation. I think Declan Rice has to have like a full season at Arsenal, and Ødegaard needs to not be at like the lowest part of his life, and then you can give, Rice the armband. But it's inevitable. You guys, Mustard, like, he knows exactly what it means. And when he said he wanted to play in Champions League, he didn't mean he just wanted to play in the group stages. He said he wanted to push for everything. And so, we need to, like what Sean is saying, we need to build the team around him. And so there was somebody obviously like in the watch along that was saying, he's hurting us, or he's pulling us back. And I'm like, no, we need to figure out a way to build this midfield around him. We need to figure out a way for him to play in the 6th role, and for his best attributes to make the players ahead of him better, And so right now we have a midfield that's not functioning, but we need that left center mid that's going to allow him to just kind of do the job that we got him for, which is the off the ball, kind of winning the ball back, the interceptions, the duels, and all that kind of stuff. He can do all the ball carrying. He can pass between the lines, but if we had a left center mid that was busy and can allow for and was a little bit more creative, he would just be able to do what he's supposed to do, and what he does is so useful for us. So we don't win that game with the team, the midfield, that like, we don't win it without him. Like, I don't think, so he's a special player. I'm so glad we have him. Michael says Rice for vice captain for sure. Mark Neighbor says Die Hard Gunner is LA Skid Row at Sponsor's Dream. Aman says rock solid. Keenan says Thomas Partey is done. Should have sold him to Saudi for 40 million. I think he is finished. Like, I think in January we need to be looking in another direction so we can get the most out of Declan Rice and Ødegaard. I think those are the future. That's the future of our midfield, Ødegaard and Rice. And they need to figure out a way to make Kai Havertz be a left center. I'm very pissed off that we've just completely ditched the idea of like Kai being in the midfield. I know he kind of stepped in for Ødegaard today, but I am so effing sorry. He's like, you don't spend 65 million and say that these two signings are connected and then just dump it. You need to either make Kai Havertz into the midfielder that you said he was going to be. You need to do something, I don't know. Like, you have to. And M&D, you weren't here before maybe, but Thomas Partey still being our best number 6 doesn't freaking matter at this stage, because he's already missed 7 games in 12 games so far, and he's missed 50 games in 4 seasons at Arsenal. He's not reliable enough for people to be standing him and caping for him the way that they do. We need to get real. Arsenal fans have this really weird obsession with players, and they obsess over players that are not available, and they constantly pine for the version of them that we think we're going to get, but they do not ever think about the reality of the player that we have. 3 years with Thomas Partey doesn't have anything to do with his ability at all, but a 30-year-old that's never fit ever for big matches, and is unreliable, is not somebody we should be building our midfield around. Can we all agree on that? Can we all agree on that we're not building our midfield around Thomas Partey? And we bought Declan Rice to play in that number 6 role. Can we just get to that point? Move on from this chapter of Thomas Partey is our best midfielder and Declan Rice is going to play left 8. Get real. Get in, like, get to the point, like where we're all at, where we're all kind of like in agreement. A 30-year-old is not somebody we're building our midfield around, especially not one that can't stay fit. Declan Rice is our new number 6. And the only reason why he's playing number 8 right now is because your boy that you're caping for is never fit. Never fit. The reason why you're seeing Jorginho is because your guy is never available. So we need to get over this idea of Thomas Partey because he's an elite DM on his day. On his day, he is. But we don't see that day ever. Okay? We need to get over it. Get over it. Like, I'm so done with this conversation. It's at the point now where it's sickening. He is he's an amazing talent when he's fit, but he's not fit enough. He's 30, and we're not building this midfield around him. We're building it around Ødegaard and Rice. And the faster people get over that, the easier it'll be when that guy is gone in January. I'm done. Rice has just played such an amazing game and drug us over the line. And people are still talking about Thomas Partey as our best 6. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm done. Thomas Partey is an amazing player, but like, we need to come into reality. Arsenal fans have an obsession with players that are never fit. We did it with Jack Wilshere. We did it with Ramsey, Diaby, guys that were never fit. Obsessed over Robert Van Persie for him to just, be injured all the time and then leave us. Like, once they've had 3 seasons of like inconsistency in terms of their availability, that is who they are. That's it, So this is our new number 6. Welcome him. Welcome him. This is him. This is the guy that's dragging you over the line, and you're still talking about some guy that wasn't even there today, that hasn't even been fit since August 26th. Like, let's talk about him, like, I'm done. All right. Terrible game. Terrible game. I mean, there's no way to really sugarcoat it. I think, like I said earlier, he needs to sit out, at least for Sheffield. He's just going through a really bad period. He looks weak. He can't keep the ball. He just doesn't look like he's there. It's so sad to see, but at the same time, like, after you tried to play a player into form, if it's not coming, you just need to sit him down. Now, who we play there instead of him, I don't know. And that puts us in a worse position because we're already trying to figure out how we're going to compensate for the 6th position, but you're all like, or left center mid, but now you have to figure out how you're going to cover right center mid. If that's what Arteta chooses to do, we just don't have the quality of midfielders to figure this puzzle out. We can't even figure out the starting, but now we're trying to figure out like who's going to come in for, it's a mess, but the guy needs to sit down. I mean, this was another really poor performance for him. I was hoping that this would be the game that he can like turn his form around, but it's not happening. So yeah, he was one of the worst guys on the pitch. I mean, he was our worst player, I think. Yeah, he was. So 4. You got to sit out, buddy. I love you, but it's done. You got to sit down for a little bit. Ocampo says, you're being really harsh. I thought he pressed well in the first half. His role has changed a bit this season. I believe he is the press trigger. I give him a 6. Maybe I'm being harsh. I could give him a 5. I just, it was the moments where I really began to be really frustrated with him was we're getting into the final third. The shots were weak and everything. He always does the pressing. So that's a bare minimum. And he does it and he does it well. So I don't want to take that away from him. But there were like 3 or 4 moments in the second half after they had scored the goal, where every single time he got the ball, they knocked him off of it. And for me, like, we need you to be able to, like he did against Manchester City, he did it a lot, where he got the ball in those small pockets. And even though it was a lot deeper, he kept possession, gave it to Jorginho, got it forward. He did those things. That was missing. That was missing today. He just didn't have the ability to like hold the ball and like get us up the pitch. And like that in the shots and just like, oh my goodness, like he's really struggling. And so like, this player has not played this poorly since 2020. So I'm not trying to say like I'll never turn my back on Ødegaard. Like he's been too good for us for too long. But when players are going through bad runs of form, you can do one of 2 things. You can try to play him into form, which I think is what we're tried to do, or you could take him out. And I think you need to take him out now, especially because we have Sheffield um, coming up, and it's a good opportunity to rest him, but also to see other people in that position just in case we need to change. But Ødegaard is a fantastic player. I'll never say anything different. He's my favorite player. He's our captain, and he's really led us and carried us with Saka for the last 2 seasons. But he's in a very, very poor run of form. And today for me was like okay, you need to take him out now, which is fine. And this Vince is also saying, I think the guy is just tired, 5 for me. And Arteta needs to recognize when players like when Saka was like dead on his feet. I think last season at one stage Saka was like dead on his feet. He just kept playing him, kept playing him, kept playing him. I'm like, just take him out, So yeah. Mark says you cannot take him out. We cannot destroy his confidence. It's a thin line if you rest him. But I mean, at Sheffield, you could really it doesn't have to be a dropping. It could be like, we need to rotate you and rest you. His confidence is low, but I don't know. I think we've tried to play him into form. I don't know. Maybe you don't drop him. This is like my favorite guy. So it hurts me to be saying this because any day, even today, I was like, you still have to start him. But against Sheffield, you have an opportunity to rotate some players because we have Newcastle the next weekend away from home. So he's going to have to play that game. So this is the chance to rest him. And I think you can say it's resting, and it won't be like the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? But I totally understand what you're saying about, not wanting to hurt his confidence, but he's not doing it, and we need him bad. So we need to try something else, I think. Nocturnal says rotate him. I mean, make it like that. You're rotating him, It will feel like he's being dropped, but at the same time, Martin Ødegaard is a talented enough player, a strong enough player to be moved out and then come back in. I remember when he was dropped in his first full season at Arsenal, and ESR was playing over him. The next time he played, he was really good. He actually got dropped, I think, right after the Brighton game. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the season where Ødegaard became like a player for us, permanently. We played against Brighton at kind of the beginning of the season, and we wore the light yellow kits. And Ødegaard was abysmal, and he looked quite similarly to what he looks like now. And Arteta played ESR the next game, and I remember Ødegaard came in against Leicester away from home, and he looked so much better. And Martinelli too. He took him out for one game against Aston Villa after I think Martinelli struggled against Leicester or something like that, and then Martinelli came back into form. I think you just kind of have to try it. The problem that we have is no one else can actually play that position. And I do have this weird feeling that some of these issues are coming from not having the same midfielders around him with that balanced midfield. No Xhaka, no Partey. The midfield is not really clicking, and he's really suffering from it. But I also think it's a combination of him being out of form. So yeah, it's poor. He's in a poor run of form right now, but he's a really good player. So Arteta needs to figure out a way to get the best out of him. Or get him back into form. It's a tough one. Charlie says the armband is heavy at AFC Jess. We are a fan base that will demand our captain shows 98% of the time for those off the bench minutes like KDB last year till he finds his feet again. Everybody has these runs of form. I'm glad that you mentioned KDB because Arsenal fans seem to have this misconception that no player, our players don't get bad runs of form. When they're out of form, they're crap and we need to get rid. But Ødegaard is no different than anybody else. And so I remember when Pep dropped KDB and he just needed some time off to get back into form. And so I think we're in that same position. But when you talk about the armband being heavy, I think that's why Arteta already said that, Declan Rice will be the future captain, because we all know that you have to have a certain type of metal behind you. You need to have a certain type of Like Tony Adams was the captain, Vieira was the captain. Like there's certain type of personality to be a captain for a top club. And I'm not saying that Ødegaard hasn't been a good captain for us. I think he's led us well so far. But as the expectations get greater, that armband gets heavier. And I'm looking at Declan Rice and I'm like, you know what? He probably will end up being the captain at some stage. And that's fine with me, Um, Salvatore says he's nowhere near KDB. Nobody said he was. I used it as an example that even the best players get dropped so they get back into form. So nobody said he was just like KDB. Tala says Ødegaard struggles when we don't dominate the ball. It's annoying when he loses the ball so much, but I can't lie. He presses really well and always position well. And when you saw when Kai came in, he was just getting ran straight past. Like he doesn't understand the positioning. So you got to figure out somebody else to put in that position. But, we'll see. It's tough, Die Hard Gunner, he's been kind of off, but he said, yeah, Xhaka was the captain last season, to be fair. I think Ødegaard and Xhaka were both kind of the captains, and, no Xhaka now, and, we need to figure out a way to balance that out. So, maybe Rice vice captain or something, but I love Ødegaard, but we need to figure out something. He didn't play. Little cameo, didn't do much. I don't know, kind of like Kiwior, I'm like, he had a couple of decent touches, whatever, but like the game was just kind of like, you could tell he got thrown in and he was like, where am I? Maybe starting from the beginning, he'll be a little bit better. I think if you're going to play Kai Havertz at right, in the midfield, it's probably going to be right center mid, which again, you're looking at recruitment. Like this guy has only played well in midfield off of the right. You bought him for the left and now he's getting garbage minutes at right center mid and center forward. So poor. But if you're not going to be able to change him or, coach him into the left center mid that you said he was going to be all summer when you bought him, then you need to play him in a position where he'll do well. And I'm not accepting a 65 million pound player that you bought when you could have bought anybody else in the world and you bought him as some sort of squad player coming off the bench for 10 minutes. This guy needs to become a part of the grand plan, as far as I'm concerned. So if that means right center mid, giving him some minutes there, moving Ødegaard to the left, I guess we have to try it. It's not my favorite idea because I feel like moving one of our best players out of his best position to accommodate somebody who is supposed to play on the left is a little like, but Kai can only really play on the right. He looks good in that right half space. He does not look comfortable on the other side. So I would like to see Kai in that position a little bit more. He has to learn the positioning, but I thought today he just kind of was there. So I'm going to give him a 5, kind of like Kiwi. Like, I don't know what you did, but you didn't kill us. So whatever. Johnny says Kai Havertz looks like a great signing for us when he moves to the next club. Tala says is it more or does feel as if Kai is playing to safe? I think this is a confidence issue. This isn't the real Kai. I'm not sure what it's happening, but Kai deal seems really weird, very weird. Kai is, I don't think the confidence is not high. I think people have mentioned it quite a bit. A player that misses the chance that he does against Manchester United is not confident. A confident player puts that in the back of the net. Kai does not have the confidence, but again, Arteta chose to bring in a player for 65 million who we already knew lacked confidence because we saw him at Chelsea, and then brought him to Arsenal, said he was going to play left center mid, and is now doing something else with him. I mean, we have enough to deal with now with trying to get Ødegaard, back into form, trying to manage Saka because Saka's, dealing with some injury issues, trying to keep our forwards fit because Jesus may have an injury now, and dealing with the midfield imbalance. Now we have to figure out what to do with a low confidence Kai Havertz. We brought this on ourselves. Kai Havertz, like this guy, like you watch him on the comps when he's confident, he looks like a world-class player, but that player hasn't been there for a long time. And Arteta is going to have to be one of the best managers on the planet, I think, to pull it out of him, at this stage. And I've seen a little bit of it, a little bit of it here and there, but this is not a player that's like kicking it past them and, shoving them off the ball and taking spectacular shots. And, the player that you saw in Germany is not the player that we're seeing now. And Arteta has a huge job ahead of him to get even 70% of that player at Arsenal. But he has so many different projects going on right now, most of them of his own doing. So he needs to figure it out. But I'm not going to accept Kai Havertz as a 65 million, garbage minute, rotational option. This guy needs to be playing. You chose not to get Nunez, Paquetá, McAllister, Soboslai. You chose to overlook all them dudes for this guy. So I need him in our lineup. I need him producing. I need you to make him into the player that you said he was going to be. Garbage minutes, no. But yeah, five for him. He didn't kill us, but he didn't do anything special. He didn't play. I thought this was a really good cameo from Leo. Got stuck in, kept the ball for us. Looked like he wanted it. Looks like a confident Leo again, which is good because I think he lost confidence at the beginning of the season. I wouldn't mind seeing him start against Sheffield. I think not in Martinelli's position, but again at left center mid because we're trying to figure that situation out. But Leo, to me, good little cameo. Nothing too special, but 6.5. I think I remember him doing more than I remember Kai Havertz and Kivior doing. So 6.5 for him. Good for Leo. Love him, and I think he needs some more minutes or to be utilized in a way that's too good of a player just to be sitting on the bench when you got problems in your midfield. You didn't play Saka. It's hard for me to really talk about Saka poorly right now because he's not fit. Pippa spoke about it, that the level of injury, like what he had against Lens, like you could just tell that he was like holding his leg. He's in a lot of pain and he continued to play and then came off. This is a player that's been playing with injuries for months. And so for him to just like after a week, he's not going to be fully fit. I think we have to be a little bit more realistic about that. I know it's like Saka didn't play well. Oh my God. But do you expect him to play well? You expect a player that just came back off of like, he's still probably dealing with the injury. He only took a week off, So he wasn't great. He was getting kicked again. So I'm gonna give him a 5.5. Like he wasn't good, but like I can understand why. And he needs to sit. He needs to sit. Like take him out. Let him sit against Sheffield for more time. Like he hasn't had like enough rest. Charlie says, man, no big B slander will be tolerated here. Yeah, he needs a break. Aman says it was more on the left-hand side that was quality today, which again, like at some point the left-hand side needed to step up. The right-hand side had carried us like a lot of like for a long time. So the left-hand side definitely needed to come to the table, and they did. So that's great. Sean says needs a break, still getting good GA. Reckland Dice says our star boy was a 5 today, no sugarcoating. Mark Neighbor says Saka will either do like Arteta said about Messi and Ronaldo and play 70, 80 games when in pain, or he'll be ruined by the time he's 27. We have to accept the risk in this. Michael says Saka was a 5.5 for me. I hear the things about the injuries, but that doesn't change the fact that he wasn't great. I need to see someone else on the right wing versus Sheffield. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change anything. Like, I'm not saying that he was good or anything else, but it's hard for me to like feel like this player is fit enough to put in a performance where it's like he's been performing really well for a player that's like literally on his last leg. So I will allow him some not so great performances because again, like against Chelsea, he's not fit. He gets an assist that helps us get the point. Like he's been doing his part despite being super injured. So yeah, he wasn't great, but it is what it is. He needs a rest. I think all of us have kind of said that. If I speak, I think it's just best I don't say anything about this young man. Y'all, if you guys were a part of the watch along, what does he do? What does he do? He just fouls, runs around, jogs, can't get past the player and get to the corner flag, then fouls. If I speak, I'm not saying anything else. You guys rate him. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. You do it. You do it. You do it. I'm gonna check the poll while you guys rate Eddie. So man of the match so far is 33%. Tommy, 22%. Rice, Jesus 38%, and Martinelli 7%. I like that. I like that. I like that. So It looks like Jesus is leading the race. Aman says, Nketiah jogging when he should be closing angles and pressing, then sprints trying to take guys on when it doesn't make sense, arrogant, self-centered, and childish. He just seems like somebody where he doesn't give you anything off the bench because he is mad because he didn't start. And then when he starts, he doesn't do anything. And he's like arrogant and like weirdly shoots when he shouldn't. I can't. I need y'all to do it for me. I'm sorry. Andrew says, Eddie 3.5. Aman says 2. Recklin Dice says, I'm an Eddie apologist, but he was a 2 today. Rabizio Homano, aka Mr. Tell, come on, you Spurs, says 2. iPad Z says 2.5. Already did that one. Martin N says 4.5 for Saka. Die Hard says Sheffield is a must-win game. What are you guys talking about? Play your best team, no rotating. Ghost says NA has to do a lot more to close the game. I mean, he was jogging, y'all, and I almost threw my laptop. I was just like, just stop fouling and press people normally. My goodness, it was so poor. Wizzy says Eddie was a 1. Yeah, it was really poor. Yikes. Can I just say, this guy was so good today. I mean, when we were really struggling to create chances, he was the one that was dropping in, and he created the 2 chances for Martinelli. Martinelli should put the first one away. And then he scores the wonder goal by himself, which is just a piece of individual quality. Gabriel Jesus gets spoken about very poorly about our fan base, and I get that people want a different type of striker. But again, even wanting somebody different, I don't think you have to what's the word? Like, be disingenuous about the player that's in that position right then. I want a striker, and I want a clinical striker, but I'm not about to sit here and lie and say that Jesus is crap or he's this bum. This is a top quality player. He's just not a clinical striker. But when he relaxes and he plays his game, he gives you what he gave you today, which is, if you look at Jesus's numbers over the years, like, he's been a very good forward in England. He has, and in the Champions League. He's just not a traditional number 9, and he's not clinical enough. But a goal and assist today, individual bit of quality, gets this over the line. If we don't get that goal, I don't think we get out of there. Because I think Sevilla was gonna score no matter what. So we needed that goal at the beginning of the half. He was really good today. He won his physical battles. He got stuck in, and when he's not going so deep, and what I mean not so deep is like not getting into like defensive midfield territory, but just deep enough, to draw players in. He's so cute and has such good skills and intelligence where he can like do that little flick behind his leg and then pass it into Martinelli. When he's good, he's so good. And I think I needed to see that game from him, because I thought against Chelsea, he really struggled, but he was really good against Manchester City. He was poor against Chelsea, and he's good today. So hopefully he can go against Sheffield, because we're going to need him against Newcastle. But I thought he was really good today. I'm really happy for him. Let's see. Ocampo says, match winner gets an 8 for me. Very good goal and assist for the XG. Andrew says, Jesus, 8, very good game and goal. He also had assists, y'all. Johnny says, you have no clue what you're talking about. He pockets Tony if you play him through the middle. Tony won't be quality either if you play him out wide, is he? I don't know what you're talking about. I think you guys are talking to each other. Manib says, potential, another man of the match candidate, goal and assist today. Should have had 2 assists, 9 today. Charlie says, I swear if Gabriel Jesus finishing balls like this every game, we'll be leading GS team in the league. He is so infuriating for simple chances. He misses and over dribbling, but 8 out of 10 bald. Nostradamus says, Jess, you don't strike me as an anti-player fan, but you are anti-Partey now. I've explained this so many times. I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys that every time we have a conversation about Partey, I say it 10 or 15 times. You guys don't hear it. Partey is an exceptional talent and is one of the best TMs in the world on his day, but we don't see that day enough. So it's not about being anti, it's about being real now. You're talking about a player and you're talking about him in a way where it's like, we've seen that player a lot. We haven't. 2 seasons ago, in December, he sat there on an interview and said he had been a 4 out of 10. So in 2 seasons, he was a 4 out of 10 and never available. He had 1 good season last season and still couldn't give us a full season. he still was not there during the run-in. He was either poor or injured, you know? So for me, it's like, it's not about anti-player. It's the frustration of not seeing a player for actually who they are. And people will keep talking to me about how good he is, but like he's never there. Like, so I'm done with it. Jesus was really good today. So we're gonna talk about him and get over Partey because he wasn't even here today. He didn't even help us win today. 9-4. Potential man of the match. Yeah, really think Jesus was good, and I hope he can play. I hope he can play the next game. But yeah, and Jesus for me is a player that even if we get a number 9, he would still be really good to have in the team because I feel the same way about Zinchenko. I don't necessarily feel like they have to be starters forever. I think they won't be starting next season, but their quality is so good that like when we talk about building a squad, I don't think like when I think the first players to sell, I'm not thinking Zinchenko and Jesus. I'm thinking other guys down the pecking order. But if you could add like a really good number 9 and Timber comes back into the team, having Zinchenko and Jesus to your, you know, your disposal, Tomiyasu and Trossard to your disposal, we're starting to build a really strong team. So, you know, I understand wanting another striker doesn't mean we can't recognize Jesus's quality. And I think we speak about him in a really poor way sometimes. So yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it. And yeah, that's it. You guys, we got through everybody, I think. I think we got through everybody. So Mikel Arteta, what do we feel about Mikel? That's the last rating we'll do. What do you guys think about Mikel? Let me know. I'll put his name up there so you guys can know that that's what we're talking about. Mikel, tell me. What do you guys say? You got it right today or what? Y'all let me know. Oh, I forgot Martinelli. Sorry. The reason why Martinelli's not on there because he was in the beginning of the season. So we'll do Martinelli. My bad. We'll do Mikel first. Let's do Mikel first because he's up there. We'll do Martinelli. I'm sorry, you guys. I was like, somebody is missing. We're gonna do Martinelli too. But you guys let's do Mikel Arteta first. Johnny says Arteta 9 out of 10. Ocampo says Arteta gets an 8. What did Mikel Arteta do wrong today? Like, we won the game. You know, we won the game. He played Tommy. He played the midfield that he had because somebody wasn't available. So how does Mikel not get like a 9 out of 10? I want to know what you guys would have expected from him other than, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I could give Mikel anything other than that. He didn't have anybody else in the midfield available to him. He started the 2 players that combined for the goals. You know, what else? Mark says that damn somebody. Really legit says no subbing off Saka, even though he's having a poor game. I mean, sub him off, but sub him off for who? Again, like we talk about, you have to get rid of Saka and Ødegaard. They're so who's going to come on and do better? You know, the players that came on, except for Trossard, that came on. I don't really remember what the subs did. You know, so yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Glow says, why did he bring on Eddie? Because he didn't have anybody else. You know, I mean, you have to just put people on and, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why he would get anything lower than like an 8 or 9 because we won the game. He played Tommy. He played Martinelli and Jesus, who connected for the goal. You know, he made subs. The subs didn't really make a huge difference, but like, you know, and he didn't have the option to play a better midfield. So, you know, it's weird. What else? Reckland Dice says the game plan was solid. I mean, it's a difficult away game in Europe and we won. So yeah. Yeah. Johnny D says these people just give these people that give Jesus and Arteta under 9 have deep past frustrations and no reality check about the game, I swear. And we're talking about just this game, you know? So I don't know. Natalie says bring Trossard on faster, maybe, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna give Mikel. I think, yeah, Reckland Dice says the decision to start Tommy alone gives him an 8 minimum. I mean, I think I'm gonna give Mikel like an 8.5. I don't know. It's one of those where we weren't like amazing, but some of that is not his fault, you know. To me, some of that is not his fault. So, but to give him anything less than an 8, I think is a little like, what are you saying? What could he have done other than what he did today? Did he get the win? He played Tommy, which you guys wanted. He didn't have another option in midfield. Come on. So yeah, Martin N says 8 for the first 70 minutes, 4 for how we closed the game so poorly. Yeah, maybe, maybe. So yeah. And then so let's do Martinelli. I know he's not on the thing because he wasn't available at the beginning of the season when I made this. I have to update this. I'm so sorry. But Martinelli, what are we saying? I thought had a decent game. Like scored the goal, so obviously had a decent game. Should have scored 2. Made his mark in Europe. Was busy. I thought him and actually Jesus could have scored a goal off of a Martinelli pass, I think, as well. Where he hit it over the bar. So I thought Martinelli was good. I don't think he was the best performer. Like, you can score a goal and not be our best player, So I'm going to give Martinelli an 8. We really missed him. And today was a really good, like, I think, example of why he's going to be so useful to us in Europe, because if teams don't sit back, we finally have somebody that can go in behind, and be like good and pacey, on the counterattack and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he was really good today. So yeah, he got way lower in the rankings for player of the man of the match, but Recklin Dice says Nelly gets an 8. He was a consistent threat. Mark says 7.5 for me. Got his goal, was busy and vibrant with his runs, ran out of steam a little bit, hardworking and kept their defense busy. Was a good outlet to get up the field. Worried them. He did. Glow says he is still getting back to full fitness. Love him. That's another really good point. Easy says, isn't it time to start playing Reece Nelson more rather than putting up with Eddie's bullshit? That made me die. Sean says goals change games. 8 for Martinelli. I don't know why that killed me so much. Dealing with Eddie's bullshit. That's so funny. Johnny D says Martinelli 8 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I mean, he was good. He was good. What else can you say? He did his job. He did what you're supposed to do. Ivy says Martinelli 7.5. And that's the thing. It's like, since he's been back for 2.5 games and he scored 2 goals. That's what Martinelli gives you. He gives you end product. And like, we really rely upon our wingers to score goals, obviously. And so they need to be putting up the numbers every single game. And so far, Martinelli's back. He's doing the business. And so what else can you say? You guys, that's it. We got to get out of here. It's almost been 2 hours and I'm tired now. You guys know this is my 3rd show of the day. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I don't think we'll do a rewatch for this one because the second half was kind of rank, so I don't know if we want to watch the first or the second half. You guys can let me know if you want to see a rewatch on Patreon, but it's probably not what you guys want to see. Tomorrow, the second half of my show with Pippa is going to come out, and we'll just get back to normal programming because we won't do a post-match on Patreon until Monday, but normal programming for a live on Wednesday. We'll do a live on, Thursday, normal programming here on She Knows Arsenal. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so happy. Yes. And Mark says it best. Time for a pumpkin spice latte. I'm going to go to Starbucks and get me one. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. I really appreciate hanging with you guys on game day and hope to see you guys again. See you guys tomorrow for sure. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.